Right. Ready to dive into something pretty fascinating today.
I'm game. What are we looking at?
We're cracking open the Satanic Bible.
Oh, wow. Jumping right into controversial territory, I see.
Yeah, and before anyone gets the wrong idea, our goal here isn't to endorse LaVey's philosophy or anything.
Right, of course.
It's more like we're trying to understand it.
Yeah.
Like what makes this book so powerful?
Right.
Why it still resonates, decades later.
It's definitely a product of its time, but it also speaks to something timeless, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
So where should we even begin?
Well, I think it makes sense to start with the man himself, Anton LaVey.
Okay.
I mean, his background is fascinating.
Actually.
He starts out as a police photographer.
Yeah, you don't see that every day.
Talk about an unusual path to founding a church.
Right. You'd think he'd be more drawn to, the angelic side of things, not...
Right. Not exactly the typical resume builder for a religious leader.
Exactly. But LaVey actually said that those years working for the police really shaped his worldview.
Oh, how so?
Well, he saw a lot of darkness,
Yeah, I bet.
Violence, suffering, the underbelly of society. He started to question, where is God in all of this?
That makes sense, actually.
So it's like all that exposure to the harsh realities of the world made him rethink those traditional notions of good and evil.
Instead of seeing things in black and white, he starts to see the hypocrisy.
Yeah, the control.
The ways that traditional morals could be used to justify all sorts of messed up things.
Exactly. And that disillusionment, I think, is what really set the stage for his turn towards the unconventional.
And eventually, he ditches the badge and becomes a nightclub organist.
Yep. From chasing criminals to tickling the ivories.
What a transition.
Right. Talk about a career 180. But it's like he was drawn to those shadowy, taboo corners of life.
So the big question is, was he always into, the occult? Or did that come later?
It's hard to say for sure, but what's interesting is how LaVey reinterprets Satan.
Oh, how so?
He didn't see Satan as this, literal fire-breathing demon.
Really?
Yeah. He even called him, get this, a spirit of progress.
Okay, that's definitely not the image that comes to mind when I think Satan.
Right. But for LaVey, Satan was more of a symbol.
Of a what?
Embracing our natural instincts, things like indulgence, pride, ambition.
All the things most religions tell you to suppress.
Exactly. LaVey saw traditional religion as this tool of denial,
Yeah.
holding humanity back from its true potential.
So it's less about worshiping a deity and more about worshiping yourself.
In a way, yeah. It's about saying, hey, I'm not going to deny who I am. I'm going to embrace my desires, my flaws, my ambitions, and create a life that aligns with my own values.
I can see the appeal in that.
Right. It's that classic struggle between what we should do and what we really want to do.
And LaVey's philosophy, even if it's a little out there for some people, it feels relatable.
Totally. And that's what makes the Satanic Bible so fascinating to unpack.
So where do we go from here? What's next in LaVey's grand philosophy?
Well, he lays out these guiding principles, right? He calls them the 9 satanic statements.
All right, let's hear them.
And I have a feeling you might resonate with a few of these, even if you don't consider yourself a Satanist.
All right, lay it on me.
Well, one of the most talked about statements is indulgence, not abstinence.
Laughing. All right, I'm already intrigued and a little terrified. Does that mean what I think it means?
Hold on. Before you picture endless parties and wild nights, let's dig a little deeper.
Okay, because that's exactly where my mind went, to be honest.
I had a feeling.
Yeah.
But LaVey's point is much more nuanced than that.
Okay, so what does he really mean by indulgence?
It's about understanding what truly drives you, what brings you genuine joy and fulfillment, and then consciously pursuing those things instead of constantly denying yourself.
So it's not about saying yes to absolutely everything, but saying yes to the things that genuinely resonate with you.
Exactly. It's about defining your own version of indulgence on your own terms.
Okay, so what else does LaVey have to say for himself? Give me another satanic statement.
All right, how about this? Kindness to those who deserve it.
Okay, that was definitely going to ruffle some feathers.
Right. It goes against that whole love thy neighbor approach.
I can practically hear the gasps of shock now.
But honestly, how many times have you felt pressured to be nice to people who just keep taking advantage?
All the time. It's that age-old dilemma of turning the other cheek.
Right, and LaVey would say that kind of indiscriminate kindness only leads to resentment.
It lets people walk all over you.
Exactly. He's not advocating for cruelty, but for a more discerning, maybe even strategic approach to relationships.
Value those who value you. It's kind of refreshing when you think about it.
Right. It's a different kind of moral code, that's for sure.
Totally.
But it resonates with a lot of people, even if they'd never admit it publicly.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. Speaking of things that make people uncomfortable, let's talk about the rituals in the Satanic Bible.
Oh boy, here we go.
Right. You know, I'm talking about like
Yeah.
animal sacrifices, chanting in dark robes, probably a cauldron bubbling in the background.
Yeah, that's what most people think of.
Right. But is that actually what LaVey describes?
Not even close, actually.
Okay, so what's the real deal with satanic rituals then?
Well, LaVey outlines 3 main types of rituals.
Okay, I'm listening.
He talks about sex, compassion, and destruction.
Okay, now I'm really curious.
Yeah, and each one of these is tied to a basic human emotion,
That makes sense.
like lust, empathy, and anger,
Okay, so instead of trying to like suppress those emotions.
which is what a lot of religions teach, right?
Right, exactly.
LaVey is saying you should amplify them. He's saying you should use them, harness that energy.
So how do these rituals actually work? Like, what do you actually do?
Well, LaVey was big on personalized rituals.
Okay, so what does that mean?
He talks about using things like mental imagery,
Oh.
sensory experiences, trying to achieve like a trance-like state.
Huh. That almost sounds like meditation in a way.
Yeah, it's about tapping into your subconscious.
Interesting.
And he was really big on breaking free from shame.
Like letting go of those feelings that society tries to impose on you.
Exactly. Own your desires, even the dark ones.
That's a pretty radical idea, especially back in the 60s.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
LaVey was way ahead of his time in a lot of ways.
So what about the Black Mass? Isn't that supposed to be like the ultimate satanic ritual?
Yeah, that's the one everyone always asks about.
And I'm guessing LaVey has his own unique take on it.
You know it. He always does.
Okay, so how does LaVey's version of the Black Mass differ from the traditional view?
Well, he saw traditional religious rituals as being designed to suppress desire, to instill guilt.
Right.
But the satanic ritual, he says, is supposed to do the opposite.
So it's about embracing those desires, those things that make you feel guilty.
It's about harnessing that energy for your own personal gain.
So when LaVey talks about the Black Mass, he's not actually talking about worshiping the devil.
Not in the traditional sense, no.
It's more about like mocking the hypocrisy of traditional religion
Exactly.
and reclaiming those desires that have been demonized for so long.
He's saying those desires are a part of you,
They're natural.
and you shouldn't be ashamed of them.
I have to admit, the more we dig into this, the more complex LaVey's ideas become.
Yeah, he's not just some one-dimensional villain.
Right.
He actually had a pretty good sense of humor, too.
Oh, really? That's
Yeah.
not something you hear about very often.
Yeah, like he practically laughs at the idea of animal sacrifice.
Oh.
He's like, why would you do that when you could just go have a good time instead?
Okay, that's kind of funny.
Right.
Not exactly the image that comes to mind when you think bloodthirsty Satanist.
Definitely not. But speaking of things that are a little bit mysterious, let's talk about the Enochian keys.
Ooh, yeah, I've heard of those, but they're pretty esoteric, right?
They're definitely out there.
Like ancient magic words, secret codes.
Basically, yeah.
I'm getting some serious Indiana Jones vibes here.
So these are like a set of calls or incantations, and they're written in this language that's almost impossible to understand.
What is it, like ancient Sumerian or something?
No, it's called Enochian.
Enochian. I've never even heard of that.
Most people haven't.
Okay, so where did these Enochian keys come from?
Well, they were originally documented by this guy named John Dee.
Who was John Dee?
He was an advisor to Queen Elizabeth I back in the 16th century.
Wow, so we're talking about some seriously old stuff here.
Yeah, hundreds of years old.
And what did this John Dee guy say about these keys?
He claimed that he was using them to communicate with angels.
Angels.
Or, you know, maybe something a little more infernal.
Like demons.
Exactly.
Ooh, spooky.
So LaVey was fascinated by these keys. He thought they held a lot of power,
Really?
even though they're written in this language that's practically untranslatable.
So how could they be powerful if no one can understand them?
Well, LaVey believed that the words themselves had a certain power.
Like a kind of magic.
Kind of, yeah. He saw them as a way to tap into these primal forces.
Okay, now you're losing me.
Think of it like the raw power of your subconscious mind.
Okay, I think I kind of get it.
That's what LaVey believed these keys could unlock.
So what do these keys actually sound like?
Well, the language itself is incredibly evocative.
Like what kind of imagery are we talking about?
Well, there's a line in the first key that says, I reign over thee, saith the Lord of the earth. In power exalted above and below, in whose hands the sun is a glittering sword and the moon a through-thrusting fire.
Wow, okay, that's pretty intense. Yeah, it's powerful stuff.
You can practically feel the energy radiating off those words.
Exactly, and that's just one small taste.
I bet.
There are 19 of these keys in total.
Okay, so LaVey takes these ancient, mysterious texts,
Right.
and he incorporates them into his own philosophy.
Which is pretty wild when you think about it.
It is. It's like he's taking something old and making it new again.
Giving it a whole new meaning in the process.
And that's what's so fascinating about the Satanic Bible.
It's full of surprises.
It makes you think about things in a different way.
But challenges your assumptions.
It makes you question everything you thought you knew.
Exactly.
But do you think the Satanic Bible is just a product of its time?
What do you mean?
Like a reaction to the social and religious norms of the 1960s?
That's a good question. Or is there something more enduring there? Something that continues to resonate with people even today?
I think it's safe to say that LaVey tapped into something timeless.
What do you mean?
Something fundamental about human nature.
Like what?
Like our fascination with what's forbidden,
Right.
that desire for self-empowerment.
Right.
And you can't deny the power of ritual and symbolism.
Those are all things that have been around for centuries.
Exactly. And LaVey understood how to tap into those primal instincts.
So he was really on to something then.
Oh, absolutely. And one of the most intriguing arguments he makes,
Yeah? What's that?
he says that true Satanists, the ones who really live by his philosophy,
Yeah.
they're often hiding in plain sight.
Okay, now that's a thought. So
Yeah.
we're not just talking about like the stereotypical Satanists here.
Right, not just the people in the black robes chanting in some dark basement.
Right.
LaVey saying that a lot of successful people at the top of their game,
Okay.
they might actually be living by a satanic code without even realizing it.
Interesting. So, like, what are we talking about here? CEOs, politicians, celebrities.
Think about it. These are people who are driven by ambition.
Yeah.
They prioritize their own desires.
Right.
They're not afraid to challenge the norm, to bend, or even break the rules to get what they want.
It's like you said, those core principles that LaVey talked about.
Exactly.
They can be applied to so many different aspects of life.
And they can lead to success, too, which is maybe a little bit unsettling.
It definitely makes you think.
If LaVey is right and these unintentional Satanists are out there, how would we even know?
Right. They could be anyone.
Your neighbor, your boss.
The barista who makes your coffee.
Exactly. It's both a chilling and strangely empowering thought.
Chilling because it means those ideas are more pervasive than we realize.
And empowering because it means that potential is within all of us.
That's a great way to put it.
Maybe the Satanic Bible, more than just being about, worshiping the devil.
Yeah.
Maybe it's really a mirror.
Oh, I like that.
It reflects those raw, ambitious parts of ourselves that we usually try to hide.
It makes us confront those desires.
It forces us to ask ourselves if we're really living by our own rules.
And that's a wrap on another deep dive.
Another one for the books.
This one was definitely thought-provoking. The Satanic Bible, a book that continues to fascinate, provoke, and challenge our perceptions.
A true conversation starter, that's for sure.
It's not every day you get to explore the ideas of Anton LaVey, but I have to say, it's been enlightening.
Absolutely. LaVey was a complex figure, and his philosophy is full of surprises.
Whether you agree with him or not, there's no denying that he left his mark on the world.
He definitely made us question everything we thought we knew.
And that's the power of a truly great book.
It stays with you long after you finish reading it.
So, until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep an open mind.
You never know what you might discover.